So, dude, we're already going. I just like to turn it on and ambush people.
Love it.
But I just want to say thanks for having me out. We got connected through Dustin, who is the BioPro, the owner of BioPro. And all my listeners are familiar with BioPro. So they've been a sponsor for 2 years now. And they already signed for all of 2023.
Nice.
And so, yeah, Tyler just gave me a BioPro because I'm going to I forgot him at home.
Yeah.
I'm down in Phoenix right now. But I love episodes like this because we're cut from the same cloth, but we don't fucking know each other at all.
Exactly.
It's like a friend of a friend or a mutual friend recommends someone to do the show. And bro, he said, you're doing cool things and you got some good projects going on, but I don't know about any of them.
Awesome.
And I didn't even look into it because I want to learn as we're sitting down, sharing space and getting to know each other. It's another reason I only do the show in person because we're drinking coffee and walking around your compound. Like, this is an experience.
For sure.
You know? So, dude, just introduce yourself and what you're about, and we'll just have fun with it and take it from there, man.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm Tyler. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I am the founder of Arizona Compound One, which is our gym that you just toured. And I'm also the founder of the Compound Warrior Project, which is just starting. We're actually launching that this Thursday. We have John Devine, who's a former Navy SEAL canine handler, coming out. And we're going to be training with these warriors. They're going to be veterans, military, law enforcement, first responders, and want to come out here, spend a week together, and do our in-person physical assessment. That way, I mean, just like you said, online training is great, but you can't see how someone moves. You can't see their deficiencies. You can't see, like, we're going to go into mobility. We're going to go into an actual physical assessment. We're going to go into a mental assessment. And I call it really iron therapy. It's something that's helped me through a lot of dark times. I'm sure it's helped you, just like jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
So that's what we're starting. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's a nonprofit. And we're looking forward to helping as many warriors as we can.
So what's the game plan out of the gates then? Are you going to have like small groups or is it individual assessments?
Right now it's going to be one-on-one. So individual, just because of space and because of finances. I mean, if we get the financing where we can put an actual building in here and have a bunkhouse, I'd love to get 10 dudes out here at a time and run them all through that. But it's just, that money.
Well, bro, and everything is, it's a slow process, just like the podcast, just like we're building a firearm range. It's like, it starts with a vision and then it's followed with some action. Yep. And bro, I mean, your place is fucking beautiful.
Thank you.
Like it's already coming together. And then once it starts working, just growth becomes exponential,
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing with our Jiu-Jitsu Academy right now. Our Jiu-Jitsu Academy is expanding by 3,000 square feet. And it's really cool to see like the vision. Because dude, you know how it is. When you have a vision, most people, and I don't know why this is, but it seems like most people lack the ability to have long-term visions.
For sure.
Because when I'm trying to build these things, like my firearm range or my gym, it's not even people are being haters necessarily. They're just like, dude, you're crazy. Always trying to do some crazy shit. Like, you don't even have a driveway.
Yeah.
How are you gonna have a range? You don't even have a driveway. And it's like, dude, if men can put robots on Mars, I should be able to figure out how to build a driveway.
Well, it's like we stopped dreaming. I mean, dude. Like, I've had this has been a dream of mine for a long time. And when I had John Devine out a couple of months ago, I was running through a workout and a physical assessment and just helping with some mobility issues, which we never used to do. We never used to do mobility and like foam rolling.
It's funny you say that because I have every foam roller and chirp wheel and like all of these different pieces of mobility equipment. And in my gym, like we were talking before we started recording, I want to have a wall of mobility and have everything mounted, kind of very similar to how yours looks aesthetically. But I was thinking like, fuck man, when I was a ranger, jumping out of airplanes and helicopters and just beating the shit out of my body, I don't think I even knew what a foam roller was.
No.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
So
like,
true.
Maybe I'm sure they existed in some fringe, like some gyms that guys that understood this stuff way back in the day, but it hadn't went mainstream yet.
Yeah.
And dude, nobody put an emphasis on mobility, flexibility, stretching. It's like lift weights and run.
Yeah.
That's your fitness, period. You know?
You're just tightening everything up. Yeah, you're getting stronger, but then eventually it's going to snap. Right?
And it's not until I got older, and jiu-jitsu for me was a big catalyst for that, because you can't fight and roll hard and then not take the time to take care of the stuff on the back end.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's, I mean, I cold plunge after every session with jits, and it helps like crazy. And you feel it in your fingers, you feel it in your toes, a lot of the places where, you know, you're grappling, and I feel 10 times better and physically, but especially stress wise. I mean, that mental aspect of that cold plunge is incredible.
Bro, like I joke, I say I've had 2 viral videos now because dude, I got in my ice barrel. It was probably like 3 months ago. And for whatever, I don't know how the algorithms work on Instagram, but for whatever reason, that video got seen over 1 million times.
Okay.
And there's like thousands and thousands of comments on it. And a lot of people, and it's like, I don't know if they just don't understand or they think they understand something that I don't, but they shit on cold plunge.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's bad for you. It can give you a heart attack. It's all of this stuff. And so I always say, like, I don't care what it does for me physiologically, what I gain mentally.
Yes.
From putting myself into that tub is something that I would do regardless of the physiological benefits. Because, bro, like, I don't care if you've been in that thing. I've been doing it for 7 years now, pretty consistently. Every single fucking time I look at it, and there's a little part of me that's like, okay,
Yeah.
you know, and like, I don't often admit that or talk about that when I'm like just getting into it, because it's like, I don't give the weakness a voice. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I say, I don't give the weakness a voice. I don't give the weakness a face. I just force myself to try and find comfort in a very uncomfortable environment.
Exactly.
And bro, think about that. Most people aren't doing anything like that in their life. And you could literally just fill a fucking horse trough with your hose and put a little adversity in your day, and you have no idea what it's going to do for you.
That's true. And we live in a society where you can push a button on your phone, you have food. I mean, you could literally never leave your house and we can still survive. So people are never looking for that uncomfortability. But what I call it that inner bitch.
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
like, and I get that. I got it today before I plunged, and it's like that inner bitch was coming out, and it's like, I don't want to do this. I'm warm. I'm comfortable, but I know I'm going to feel so much better after.
I love that, like, you know, Rogan, who's leading the charge in the podcast world, and really like the mission to just become a better version of yourself every day. The inner bitch thing, it's like, everybody knows it's true, but a lot of people don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And when guys like us talk about it, it actually gives people validity, because I don't care how fit you are. I don't care how good a shape you're in or how good of a fighter you are. There's certain activities that bring that inner bitch in, bring the inner bitch out of you. And bro, that's not something we should like necessarily hide from or pretend isn't true. That's like a pretty exciting part of life, to be able to find that and then defeat that.
Well, because there's no courage without fear. And you know, it's not necessarily fear, but I've trained a wide variety of people, all the way from tier 1 operators to 80-year-old women. And the one thing I have seen that is exactly the same as everyone has it. Everyone has that inner bitch. It doesn't matter who you are. And it's just, the more you work on beating it down, the easier it becomes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, think about it. Like a 1 mile run, a max 1 mile run will fucking take your soul.
Yep.
I don't care who you are. And I don't care if your time is 4:30 or 10 minutes. Like, if that is your max, that's going to fucking crush you.
Exactly. And that's why I always talk about forging the best version of yourself. It's not, okay, you're a black belt. I'm not. Like, I'm trying to get there, but it's about me being better tomorrow than I was today.
Of course, man. Is there, do you have a good jiu-jitsu academy local to here?
I do, yeah. Refuge BJJ. So it's actually right about 15 minutes from here.
Okay.
Josh Guerrera, he's my jiu-jitsu coach. He's 27 years old. He's an incredible black belt. And they're actually a sponsor of Compound Warrior Project. So cool thing, when we have guys out here, going to be able to go there, roll for free. So it's going to be awesome, like one-on-one with them.
I'm telling you, man, and I know I'm biased because like my whole life is jiu-jitsu now, but using jiu-jitsu as a tool, as a catalyst to get people to step out into that journey of exactly what you said, trying to be a better version of yourself tomorrow. I've yet to find a better tool, man.
Oh, 100%.
Like, because what it does is, obviously there's a lot of physicality in it. So your body is working hard while simultaneously solving problems with your mind. You know, like, okay, well, if I put my hand here, it doesn't work. What if I shift my hip angle this way a little bit? Like, no other physical activity is engaging your mind simultaneously on such a high level.
Human chess.
Yeah,
I
bro.
mean, and it's humbling, especially.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. And then the biggest part of it is most human beings have a misconception of who they are. So I say it all the time to my students. The mats don't show you who you are. The mats show you who you aren't.
Yep.
Because most of us have built this idea in our mind of how capable of a man we are. And it's like, dude, I'm in shape and I've got, you know, I've told this story on my show 1,000 times. Like I got in tons of fights as a kid, but they were just stupid. You know, we're out back skateboarding and just dumb shit. It does not make you a fighter, but until you learn that lesson, you think that it does.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I love watching those videos on Instagram and YouTube of like street fights, because how many times have you heard someone say, "Oh, I'll knock that guy out"?
Yeah.
Like, no, you will not.
I just see red and start swinging.
Yeah,
and it's
and
like,
they all do the random haymaker thing with elbows out, and it's like, it's hilarious. And they always miss. I mean, about 90% of the time they're missing the dude.
and you know, the thing is like, jiu-jitsu will serve you in a self-defense scenario because I've used it a handful of times. You know, I mean, I'm fucking 40 now, so I'm not getting in fights behind bars all the time. But the few times that I have used jiu-jitsu, it felt like magic.
Yep.
But I tell my students this all the time. There's two things you need to realize about jiu-jitsu is the fights that jiu-jitsu is gonna win for you are the fights that never even occur.
Yep.
Because people are gonna walk right past you and say, there's something about that person, the way they carry themselves, their posture, the way the way their shoulders are back and up, and it's like, we'll go to the next guy.
Their
So I
ears.
said, your ears. I say your jiu-jitsu is probably saved you more than you will ever fucking know.
Yep.
But then the other side of it is, if I could look into a crystal fucking ball and Nostradamus were to tell me, you will never get in another physical altercation with another human being for the rest of your life, I'll be on the mats Monday morning still.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because
100%.
it's like, I'm not doing it for self-defense. That's a small percentage of what I take off the mats.
Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, I never tried to get in a street fight, especially now. I mean, there were times where I was in a dark, dark place. And I mean, I actually choked this one dude out twice with a Marcelo guillotine. I choked him unconscious, put him in a covered
the
position.
wrist over the top?
Yep.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites. Choked him unconscious, put him in the recovered position. He got up, was embarrassed, and came at me again. I did it again and choked him out again. And
Dude,
it's
you
like,
gotta be a decently hard man to get choked unconscious and then wake up and like come at the guy again.
he was drunk, very drunk. And that whole thing started because him and a buddy were on the street catcalling women and being disrespectful. And I was with a buddy who was a army vet, infantry, and we're like, no, not today. Like,
Yeah.
we're not letting that happen in front of us. So
So, dude, what led you to this place? Like, where did you grow up?
Yeah.
Did you go into the military and like, or like what? I want to hear your story.
yeah,
man.
so grew up in the Midwest
Okay.
and actually started playing hockey. So 2 years old, started skating. I was on the ice skating. Had an older brother who is 9 years older than me, and he was my hero. He did everything that I wanted to. Like, so my entire life growing up was hockey, and I followed in his footsteps and played college hockey. And then when I was playing college hockey, in between my first and second year, I started doing jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, and just fell in love with it. I was doing it just during the summer for cross training, and that I fell in love with it. I went back to play my second year. Politics took over with hockey and everything, and I was going to school for business management. That's really all that the school had. And so I ended up hanging up the skates, transferring schools so that I can focus on MMA, jiu-jitsu full-time while switching my major to criminal justice. So going through criminal justice, I was loving it. Actually started getting good grades because I cared about it. Mm-hmm. And I ended up working with US Marshals up in Minneapolis.
Okay.
And so I'm training with these guys. And
What were you doing with them?
so at first, they were kind of using me just as like a paper boy and all that sort of stuff.
Were you part of their intern program?
I was, yeah.
Got it.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
I was with the Marshal Service for a while.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. So I got there and they had me organizing files from like all these cases. And first day, I get there, start organizing them. They showed me how they wanted it done. End of that day, I was kind of bummed. I'm like, man, I wanted to do some cool stuff. And
bro, I was with the US Marshals for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be all cool stuff.
Yeah.
And that agency, the bread and butter of that agency is producing prisoners for court.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, there are some high speed stuff. I was on the SRT team and we would get the high risk warrants. Mm-hmm. But more often than not, you're sitting on your ass, twiddling your thumbs.
I found that out.
Yeah.
And anyways, second day comes around and I quickly snapped out of it. I'm like, who cares? Like, I figured out a better way to do it.
Yeah.
So I got done with filing all those within the first week. I can't remember if it was the second day or the third day or the end of that Friday, but I got done filing all of them. I told the deputy, I'm like, hey, I'm done. He's like, you don't need to tell me when you're done with the file. I was like, no, I'm done. And like, I found a better way to do it. And he's like, okay, cool. So after that, the next week, I kind of gained some respect from some of the guys. So the next week I was handcuffing prisoners, bringing them from the holding cells down into the courtroom. So they started giving me...
Dude, they're letting the intern fucking move prisoners, huh?
At least they were with me. They said they'd never done that before.
Well, no, I've never heard of that either. So it's like,
yeah,
they bought off on you quickly.
Yeah, they did. And it was pretty cool. And I was, at the time I was doing a lot of no-gi jiu-jitsu. I was training. And they knew that. I knew one of the deputies there.
And most of the deputies are not doing that.
And so then we started training because they had a gym and they had mats up there. So I started rolling with the guys and I started showing them some things.
You're kicking all their asses.
Yeah, I was. And some of those boys are big boys. I mean, like 6'4", 265. But, and I was smaller at the time. I was probably 165, 160 walking around.
But trained versus untrained, it is what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. And so ended up building some respect with them. And they asked me to start partaking in their training. So started working with their SRT guys. And they were in charge of training the COs, the courtroom officers.
Yeah.
And
for the COs, they are a miserable group of human beings.
They are. I mean,
they're all like retired from law enforcement agencies, and then their retirement gig is sitting with the magnetometer at the entrance of the courthouse. I remember I used to think every single day when I walk into work, I'm like, that dude's 70.
Yeah.
And he's manning a metal detector with a little wand. Fucking kill me, dude.
Yeah.
Kill me now if that's my future.
It was brutal. But I got my payback.
Sorry if any listeners are COs.
I got my payback though. No, I got to have some fun with it. So one of the scenarios was in the actual lobby and this is in Minneapolis's federal building. So talking to the deputies, I was role playing as active shooter, and they're like, all right, you can do whatever you want, but we want you to come in and, don't light these guys up. Because I had a little bit of training already, and they're like, don't light these guys up. Like, shoot around them.
Don't light the COs up?
Yeah.
So you're shooting Sims then?
Yes. Yeah, so we're shooting Sims.
Dude.
And so I walk around the corner, and I'm like, I'm going to have fun with this. Like, I'm just going to pretend to be a gangster, like, do whatever I want. I'm going to do something that I normally would never get the chance to. So I turn around the corner, and they're, sitting right in their security checkpoint. There's probably 4 COs there. And
have they been briefed that a training exercise is taking place?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is end of the day. So everything's, there's no people in there.
I see.
Like, they're not armed. Like, we made sure to, do our 3-point safety check and all that. So no live rounds, none of that. And I come around the corner, and it's thinking about it now, it's funny because I think it was 4 COs and then all these deputies, and a lot of them are, high speed guys. So I turn the corner, and I just side cock my pistol. I go, fuck the police. And I start shooting, and I'm shooting all around them. And I thinking about it now, it's like I had probably 20 cops there, like just yelling, fuck the police, shooting at these cops. And I'm shooting all around them. And I'm like, okay, like, are you going to hit me now? And a couple rounds go off, not hit. And of course, they didn't tell me we were training that day. So I'm wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And so finally I get hit in the arm, and then I get hit in the other arm, and then I get hit in the chest a couple times, go down. But that was a good time. And then we did some other stuff where I disarmed a deputy in the actual courtroom, and I was on that, and the COs had to come in, and I'm on top of a deputy.
Like, in a training exercise?
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
And then I was role played as a judge, and so I got to do some cool stuff with them. And then we also worked with, because they didn't have canine units at that time with the US Marshals, so we would use St. Paul's.
Okay.
Canine officers. So we'd go into this training place, and I role played as the bad guy, and I very quickly, that was my first time really experiencing canines from the bad guy's perspective. And I was like, if I was a bad guy, I would not run from a dog or hide. Like, I came out every time. I'm like, I do not want to take a bite from this dog. So that was my experience really with the US Marshals.
How old were you when you were doing that?
Oh man. I want to say like 21 maybe.
Okay. So pretty young.
Yeah.
And there. Dude, I say this too. Like I shit on the US Marshals a lot just because when I was part of that agency, I saw some glaring holes in their leadership capabilities. It was kind of like the fuck up, move up mentality. And usually the people that are like begging to be promoted are not the people that are best suited to be promoted. Yeah. And what you find is now that kind of makes things fucked up from the top down. But the truth is, outside of those people that kind of fuck the vibe up for the whole department or the whole district, there's a lot of good people in the agency, a lot of good deputies,
for sure.
And it's sad to see that recurring theme with a lot of different departments and agencies. It's like you have all these good guys and gals that want to be mission focused and want to be doing the right thing, but the culture is just broken. And if they're not taking care of their people, it just becomes a swamp.
Yeah. And I will say, besides for one deputy, everyone there was really squared away.
Cool.
So there was one.
That makes me happy to hear.
There was one. She was a female, and everyone knew in the office like who she was. It was baffling to everyone how she kept her job. But I mean, as you know, like
Bro,
federal.
You can't. So, dude, I'll tell you. When I don't know if I've even fucking told the story on the podcast before, but my dad got terminally ill. Right. I was in Los Angeles for 4 years as a deputy, and they told me it would be a 3-year assignment. But you know how that goes. Like one person says something to you, they don't have the fucking authority to, it's like during the hiring process. You'll be in LA for 3 years and then you can put in for a transfer. So when you're a new deputy, you think, okay, this is a 3-year assignment. No, that's not what's happening at all. No. It's you can apply for a transfer. You become eligible for a transfer, but that doesn't really mean jack shit.
Yep.
And so the whole reason I even left the contracting world was to be closer to home and be around my family. And I was like, hey guys, my dad is sick. Like, here's all the documentation. Here's the letters from his doctor. Like, he's terminal. Like, I need to spend some time with my dad. And they're like, oh, well, you just be patient. We're going to figure out how to get you up there. Maybe a PCS or like a temporary duty change or whatever. Dragging it on. And then I finally got an email that said, if you need to be with your dad, he can move to Los Angeles. Wow. I was like, all right. I walked right into my supervisor's office. I said, hey, I've been fucking reasonable. I'm on your SRT team. I'm a go-to guy. I got no negative shit on my file. I was like, but you just pushed me over the fucking edge with this. He's like, Greg, calm down. Listen, like that came from DC. And I said, I know it fucking came from DC. The reason it came from DC is because I doubt there's a fucking man in this office that has the courage to say this to my fucking face.
Exactly.
Dude. He's like, dude, Greg, just we'll try and. I said, no, we're past the point of talking. You made a fucking that's super fucking insulting. My dad's on the verge of dying. I tried to do it the right way, and now I'm doing it my way. So I'll fucking see you later, and just left. Right. And we had a system. I don't know if the interns use it. Web TNA. Do you remember the Web TNA system? It's how you log your hours, right?
Okay.
And deputies have to work 50 hours a week, not 40, with no overtime, right? Doesn't that seem illegal?
Yeah, it's criminal.
The feds,
the government.
The feds are like, you know what? You're going to work more than any other department works, and we're not going to give you overtime. And but I went into Web TNA, and I put myself on unpaid leave of absence for a year. And then I left. And for the whole year, the next year, they're like, Greg, you have to come back to work. What are you doing? And I was like, I'm on unpaid leave. And this went back and forth for a year. And I'm thinking like, dude, you couldn't work at McDonald's and say, you know what, I'm not coming to work anymore.
Yeah.
You'd be fired probably the next day, right?
Exactly.
Not if you're a US Marshal, dude. An 1811 criminal investigator.
Wow.
Without a fucking a paper trail of misconduct or policy violations, they can't get rid of you.
Oh, that's insane.
And so finally, after the year, the chief wrote me, is like, Greg, if you don't resign, we now have enough paper trail because you haven't been coming to work for a year that we're going to move forward with termination. And I just wrote back, consider this my resignation. And then everyone's like, dude, you retired or you quit from the US Marshals? And I was like, bro, it wasn't all that, you know? And here's the other thing that I always say this caveat when this conversation comes up. There's 94 different districts.
Yep.
Some of them are super awesome and some of them are completely upside down, ran by fucking idiots.
Yep.
And then there's everything in between. So if you're part of the agency or you are aspiring to be part of that agency, just know I have buddies I went through the academy with that still love the organization to this day. So my story is just my story, but it's not indicative of the entire profession.
Yeah.
You know?
I know a lot of the deputies in Minneapolis when I was there said the same thing about other places that they worked, other offices. I mean,
fucking cesspools.
Yeah. I mean,
what you find is the mega offices, your DC, Super Court in DC, Los Angeles, New York, because dude, leadership starts to get diluted when you have 100 people under you, right? And I feel like without a good, like, structured chain of command where each level of the chain of command understands how to take care of people, it gets convoluted very quickly.
For sure.
And in LA, it was very clear that the chiefs that were there didn't give a fuck about the deputies. And then as soon as you're in that environment, especially like guys like us that really take a lot of pride, and like I love being parts of organizations that are ran by strong men and powerful like visionaries and people that are doing big things. Like when I'm under those kind of commands, I'll give my blood for you. You know what I mean? Like when I was in the Ranger Regiment, I worked for some incredible leaders. And I remember thinking like, dude, I'll follow this guy into fucking hell.
Yeah.
It's not a hard concept. You value people, you make people feel important, you make people feel like your input is just as important as everybody else's. And like you build that culture where you as an individual are valued. And dude, and the Ranger Regiment has its fucking flaws too. I mean, we used to get smoked for hours on end and get screamed at and stuff. But what I noticed was there was a pretty big cultural shift after 9/11. Because after 9/11, I was already tabbed, you know what I mean? So I didn't experience it from like the private. I actually got my tab on 9/11.
Okay, wow.
Isn't that crazy,
wow.
dude?
That's
That
nuts.
was my last day of Ranger School, was 9/11, 2001.
Wow.
But I noticed an overall culture shift because it's like, okay, we used to just fucking harass guys and fucking, you know, the new guys would show up and we'd haze the shit out of them. But I never really fell into that culture. I always thought there was a problem with it. And then after the war started, it's like, yeah, he might be a private, but he might need to have your fucking back downrange.
Yep.
And this stuff is stupid.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I always say, always know your why for everything you're doing. And if there's not a why behind it, I mean, if there's a good purpose for something, like if some dude's being a shitbag,
He needs it. Yeah.
But
bro, so once I became an NCO, I only smoked a person one time. I mean, I obviously be like, oh, fucking privates do push-ups, but like having fun with it, not coming at them from a negative place. The one time that I smoked the shit out of someone was we were deployed to Afghanistan and my team or my squad was in Kandahar. Only squad from the company that went down to Kandahar to do this airfield assessment mission. And the SF team that was stationed down there said, hey, I know you guys got 12 guys. We don't have enough food because we weren't anticipating you, but we got 6 extra steaks. And you can throw them on our grill, grab a Ranger buddy, and split a steak. That's fucking rad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude, one dude fucking grabbed a whole steak and went in the corner of the tent and ate the whole thing. And I was like, I wanted to RFS him for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, if you fuck your Ranger buddy over a steak, you can't be trusted.
No.
In anything.
No.
You know?
You don't trust that dude to have your back at all.
Fuck
I mean,
no.
You can't even trust him with a steak.
And me and the other team leader, Hash, who's a friend of mine to this day, we're like, all right, well, that steak's coming up then.
Yeah.
You know?
Did he puke it up?
Yeah, we fucking
There
smoked
you go.
the shit out of that fucking kid in the corner of the tent. And it's like, and here's the thing, like, it wasn't even like, this is a lesson for you. It was more like, dude, you're broken. Like, never in my military career, even as a day one private, would I think fucking somebody out of dinner would be an acceptable course of action because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that, dude?
No, that's That's insane. I've never even heard of something like that.
Well, you know, they say in all the special operations community, what is it, the 10% rule?
Yeah.
Of guys that slip through the cracks. Because, like, the reality of it is most selections are a physical gut check, right? And some of them have peers, which are good that really weeds out your shit bags. But there are plenty of people that have tough bodies and can endure, but are not morally straight.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And you see, even in the unit, man, there's guys that get in the unit, you're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing. I have buddies who, were in DevGru, and they say the same thing. It's like, no matter what, yeah, even if you're, a tier 1 operator, like, there's going to be someone who squeezes through. There's going to be some shitbag at,
and there's no way around that, because, like, people can put on a show for a selection.
Yep.
And so, all right, well, fuck, the podcast isn't about me. It's about you. I'm guilty of doing that.
I love it. I love it. I mean, we're sitting here chatting. I love it. Finding out more about you. That's what we're doing.
So what was next then?
Yeah. So, I also was working and training at a place called Sealed Mindset at the time. So it was run by Navy SEAL officer Larry Yacht, who was on Chris Kyle's team.
Okay.
So he had this, private training facility, and he had something called the Tadpole program. So it was guys who were going to go into special operations. They would work there and get to train basically for free. So I was doing that at the time, and I did that all the way through graduation and ended up, joining the Army. I always wanted to serve. And
did you go in as an officer then, since you had your degree?
I didn't, no.
Good for you.
Yeah. No. I mean, I always knew I could eventually if I wanted to, but
bro,
I wanted to be in the action.
Yes. I think it's an archaic way of thinking that this person's educated. Let's make him an officer.
Yeah.
Because, bro, that's a 200-year-old mindset where the officers were educated and now they could read and write and they could put together operations orders and they could, like, actually write out the fucking plans that are going to take place on the battlefield. Everybody's educated now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think they should really consider revamping that to where you have to be an NCO first, and then you can go to the dark side. And that would change the dynamics of the whole military, man.
That was my mindset too. It's
okay.
Like I would rather grab some experience first and, deploy. I wanted to be in it. I wanted to fight. I mean,
well, and dude, I don't think you're suited to lead men if you don't understand what it's like to walk in their shoes.
100%.
It's super important. We always say, like, ask nothing of your men you're not willing to do yourself. Well, if you were never a private, you don't understand what being a private's like.
Exactly.
Exactly. All right. So what did you choose to do?
So I went in 18 X-ray.
Okay.
So just, always from watching Rambo and wanting to, I wanted to be a Green Beret. So that's why I went in.
What year was this?
15, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
God, I'm fucking old, bro.
I know you're talking about 9/11 and I'm like, I was in middle school.
Yeah. Dude, I went in 99.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, ended up actually having some family things happening. So I got a Red Cross message when I was going through everything and had to go home, and ended up coming back, and I had to take care of my family. So it hit home when you were talking about your dad.
Yeah.
And I always had the intentions of going back in. And I got out in a way. I mean, I was crushing it. I was leading my entire platoon. I was having fun. I was enjoying it. But I always had the intention of going back in, and I tried to re-enlist 4 times actually.
Oh, really?
So, and I couldn't get the medical waivers.
So they allowed you to out-process to take care of your family?
Yep.
And then with the intention you could come back in when you're ready?
Exactly. My command loved me. I mean, if you look up anyone in my command, they have nothing but good things to say. And it's still, it actually, the first time I tried to re-enlist and I got denied the medical waiver, that started, a downward spiral, because I know.
What did they gig you on? Or if you're comfortable, you can tell me to fuck off too.
No. What'd they get me out of?
No, on the medical waiver.
Oh, so it was, it's actually, I have hypothyroidism.
Okay.
And I got a waiver for it for the first time. And I'm not sure how, looking back on it, I'm not sure if they changed.
Bro, needs of the Army. You know, like there's a waiver for everything if they need guys, For
sure. And I didn't tell them, I mean, because really no one would be able to go into the military if you told everything.
Of course,
I didn't tell them that I had already had back procedures. I didn't tell them, about a lot of the injuries I've had. I mean, I've injured basically everything you can injure at this point now. And now having 17 back procedures. So it's
Yeah.
like, and I know now that I went through all those injuries so I can help guys who are dealing with the same thing. And at the time I was like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Now I know it's so that I can help dudes who, if you have a bad back, I can help you. If you have bad knees, I can help you. If you've broken a foot, I can help you. If you separated your shoulder, I can help you. If you've broken your nose, if you have multiple concussions, I got you.
Bro, it goes into what we were just saying. Like, if you're an officer, you have to have walked in those shoes to really be a competent leader. You've walked all those fucking injuries.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and even, the mental side of it. Like I've dealt with depression. I've dealt with anxiety. I, got to the point where I tried to take my own life, and I should not be here. Like, I shouldn't be here. The only reason I'm here is the only thing that makes sense is God.
Yeah.
And I know that it's so that I can help people. That's the only reason I have a second chance. So every single day I wake up and I'm like, I need to earn it. I need to help as many people as possible, which is what I'm doing now. That's what
cool,
the Compound
man.
Warrior Project's about. This isn't about me. Like that's why I don't talk about myself a lot. Like on social media, I'm not a dude who's deployed 17 times. I'm not a tier 1 operator. I've done some cool things. I've been in fights for my life. I've, done some other cool things.
Yeah.
But this is all about helping other people out.
Well, bro, I tell people all the time, like, if the military defines you, that's the fastest way to find yourself feeling worthless and depressed. Because what should define you is what your mission is going to be tomorrow morning when you wake up. And it's like, cool, I got 14 deployments. Congratulations. That's fucking, my last one was 2009. You know what I mean? If I'm clinging on to like those allocates and allowing that to define me, bro, I honestly think that's a big part of what we're seeing in the problems in the veterans community, is because a lot of guys did go do wild fucking powerful shit, working with cool people, doing missions that you attached a lot of importance to, and now it's over.
Yep.
And it's like, but what these people are missing is that, bro, there's another mission to do back home that's just as important, if not more important. And bro, like one of my most important missions right now is my kids' jiu-jitsu program. I have 85 kids at my gym, and man, watching them grow and become confident and learn how to defend themselves and grow into like people that are carrying the warrior mindset at the age of 9 and 10. It's more fulfilling than anything I did in Iraq and Afghanistan.
It's awesome.
And so, bro, it's not about like, yeah, okay, cool. Like you got these stories where you shot a bunch of dudes and stuff. That was cool in our 20s, but I just don't feel like that is going to serve you. And I mean, it's part of our story and it happened, but I think you have to catalog it. It's just that exactly. But what's next?
For sure.
You know?
Yeah, find your next mission.
And I had a similar story. Like I left the regiment, I went into aviation, I injured my eye, and then I got medically out processed at the Army with the same thing. Like, hey, if it resolves, maybe you can come back. It resolved, and I tried. And it's funny too, because the VA said it resolved. They're like, your eye is now healed, so you don't rate any disability for your eye. I'm like, okay, well, if it's resolved, I can go back in, right? Like, yeah, shouldn't be a problem. I go to MEPS. They're like, we still see scarring on your retina. You're still disqualified. And that happened several times. And I remember thinking, like, fuck, man, like, I want to be a soldier again, and I can't be. And there's a lot of, like, emotions that surround that. Yeah. Because you feel like, fuck, dude, I was always one of the guys. And now suddenly your body isn't even good enough to go do the mission anymore. And man, I had to sit with that for a long time, and it was fucking hard. And now when I look back on it, bro, thank God, because like it would have changed my whole life trajectory.
Yeah, and that's word for word exactly how I felt. I mean, I felt like a loser. Like I hated myself. I wanted to be in so bad. That's all I wanted to do in my adult life up to that point. Probably until I turned 30.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to do.
So when you were denied re-entry for the hypothyroidism, is that where kind of like, did you take a downward spiral?
Yeah.
Was that like the mental decline?
That was the first time. And I'd say right when I got out the first time, it started. I mean, I started drinking a lot. I started, partying. I started going out to the clubs and doing all that sort of stuff. I was hanging out with people who were only there because I would buy bottle service, you know.
Bro, I wouldn't go spend an evening in a club for $5,000 these days.
No, I wouldn't go for $5. I mean, like going to those clubs where it's all loud and everything. No, I'd rather go down to the local rodeo here and watch some bull ride and sip a beer. Like, but that's where I was at. I was trying to numb myself, and I was doing it with booze. I was doing it with, you know, pills, which I was hooked on Adderall like crazy.
Fuck, dude.
And I mean, it was bad. It was bad.
And dude, for people that like, I talk about this often. People think they look at the military person or the military community, and they think like it's full of like high functioning, winning mindset, successful people. And I'm here to tell you, it's full of addicts. It's full of alcoholism. It's full of abuse. Because it's a toxic cycle, you know? And it's like, and I'm not saying that with like negative connotations. I'm just saying that that's, if you're in the Ranger Regiment and you're above an E6, you're probably an alcoholic. You know what I mean? And like, that's just what I saw with my own two eyes. And again, I've been out a while. Maybe the culture shifted. But, man, even when I was deployed, especially to Iraq, because you could walk into the pharmacies there and get anything you want.
Yep.
And so many guys on the team were shooting morphine, shooting ketamine, and just, man, high, like half the deployment.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. And these are like special operations guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's, you know, one thing I'm grateful for is that I don't like painkillers. So, I mean, with all the procedures I've had and everything, I'm grateful that I don't like painkillers because those have never been my downfall. But I would drink like crazy. And then, you know, I use weed to go to sleep, smoke weed, or, you know, take an edible, and then I'd wake up. I
still use weed to go to sleep.
Yeah. and then I'd wake up, and I'm like, I'd pop some Adderall to, you know, get going, and, you know, it boost makes you feel good, and I just didn't want to feel how I felt because, you know, I didn't like where I was at, I didn't like who I was, and, you know, when I was down in, so I ended up, after family things kind of cleared up, I ended up moving down to Arizona. And that's where I met my buddy Brandon, who he was a Ranger, and he was on an op and ended up getting shot multiple times and blown up by S-Vest. And he was sent into a coma for over 300 days.
Whoa.
And he ended up, I can send you the story. There's a New York Times story that was done on him. But he ended up coming out of it, defied all odds, came out of it. And I met him actually on my birthday. I had some buddies come down, and we started the day with rolling, did some jits. And then we went out to the bar to celebrate. And it was like a Wednesday or something. So went out and sitting there, where there's like 3 people in the bar. It's like us and then maybe one other person at the other side of the bar. And this guy comes in, stumbles in, goes to the bathroom, comes back, and he sees that we're celebrating. He's like, "What are you guys doing? What are you celebrating?" And it was like, "Oh, it's my birthday." And so he's like, "Can I buy you a shot?" And became instant friends. Awesome dude. But, we really helped each other through a lot of dark times. He struggled with, you know, TBI. He had very bad TBI. Mm-hmm. We'd be sitting there having a conversation. His eyes would roll in the back of his head. He'd forget where he's at.
Oh, fuck, dude.
And, I mean, it was bad. And anyways, we were close for a long time. We ended up getting in a lot of bar fights together with other people. And, you know, it was just that kind of time in our life. And,
sounds like rangering.
Yeah, exactly. And I found out that my brother and his wife were having their first kid. So I ended up moving back to the Midwest because I'm like, oh, I want to be with my family. And that's really when the downward spiral started, because the Midwest is just not for me. I love it down here in Arizona.
Yeah.
This is like the first place in my adult life where I'm like, this is home. Like, these are my people. I love the weather. I don't like the cold anymore. Like, these are my people. So then I really started to go into a downward spiral. And at the time, I started my own company where I was teaching permit to carry. I was teaching some TCCC stuff. I was a certified medic. I was also working with the ballistic company, so we would make custom ballistic products. So we made a custom wooden ballistic door that actually had a ballistic window in it. So we figured out this geometry problem. It's the first one that was ever made. We made custom desks where we would mimic judges' benches and desks and make them ballistic so that no one would know.
Yeah.
We would build, you know, safe rooms and all this sort of stuff for, I mean, like billionaires. And so we did some cool stuff there too. I've even
seen like ballistic backpacks for kids now.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Because it's the fucking world we live in.
Yeah. And so, you know, that was a time where I was making good money, and I was doing some cool things, but I wasn't doing what I want. I wanted to be back in. And that's when the downward spiral like got really dark.
And what year was this?
Oh man, it all kind of meshes together with how much I was drinking and everything. 2016 or 17.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember everything that happened leading up to it. I actually was in a buddy's wedding the night before and got hammered. Ended up making buddies with a guy who was a Marine, and he was going through some stuff. So I was just kind of talking to him during the wedding. And yeah, that next day, just had enough.
What do you think the catalyst was, man? Because I'm sitting here with you right now. People can feel the emotion in your voice.
Yeah.
You know? Because when I talk to most, maybe not most, but I would say the majority of guys that are kind of cut from our cloth, we've all had that moment.
Yeah.
Right? Like for me, I remember it like yesterday where I was parked with my Glock in my mouth. And it was, for me, it was the compounding effect of financial stress, problems with my woman, not feeling good enough. And then the one that really kind of like was the icing on the cake is I came to the conclusion is like, man, I'm not adding value to people's lives. I'm more of a burden.
Yeah.
I'm not a value add. I'm not an asset. I'm a liability.
Yeah.
And what do you do with liabilities? You take care of them.
Yeah.
You know? And what's bizarre is like, why do all of our brains come to that same conclusion as strong, capable fighters, tough men, like not afraid of anything? And then at some point in your life, you draw the conclusion like, I'm kind of a piece of shit and the world's better off without me. And bro, like it's not a unique thing to arrive at for men like us.
Well, and I wasn't planning on going there, but let's.
I'm just saying, bro.
I want to do it. I mean, because my entire goal, I already told you, is to help as many people as possible, and a lot of people have been there. So,
well, and I'll tell you, bro. Like I've gotten tons of feedback when I talk about this stuff because I've done full episodes on like me battling suicidal ideations, and I feel like I've figured out how to defeat those demons, right?
Yep.
And it's like, man, if I don't talk about this stuff, I built a platform where we're getting 50,000 downloads a month. There's someone out there right now who's one of us who's in that place right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would we be ashamed to talk about that?
Yep.
Well, you know what I'm saying?
And that's what we need to do. So it was a perfect storm. So that next morning, got done. I was hungover, popped a couple of Adderall, and I was planning on going over to my brother and his wife's place. They were watching a football game. And so got over there, and they had just had their first child, my niece. And I've told my family about this for a long time. I didn't tell any of my family. None of my family knew for months after all of this. And I actually just told my brother and his wife within the last year about this. So went there, and right before halftime, they had some friends over, and their friends were going to leave at halftime. And they were like, okay, go and they handed their daughter off to, one of their friends and was like, go say bye to the godfather. And it was his godfather. And, I was thinking, since I was going to be the brother, I moved back there and everything. Like, I was like, I'm such a piece of shit that they had someone else be the godfather. And now we've talked about it. And I know that they did that because family's always going to be there in their opinion. Like, this was just in case something happened. But where I was at,
but when you're in that mindset, you take any and all opportunities to put a negative reflection on yourself.
Yeah. So I heard that, and I was like, I am such a piece of shit that they had someone else, be the godfather. And so I ended up leaving at halftime.
And let's be honest, bro, that's not what set you off.
No, I was already there.
Yeah.
I mean, I was already there, but that was
it's like your brain is looking for a reason. Fuck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So being hungover, being on Adderall, which is, it's meth. Let's be honest.
Bro, and that's a real thing too. Like, I've lost 6 teammates to suicide in the last 5 years, to the point where, like, when I get that phone call now, obviously it still hits hard, but it's almost expected at this point.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, there's fucking a bunch of substances involved because your brain can't fucking navigate the storm when it's fucking like, it's already in a storm. There's already clouds everywhere. Yep. You take all these substances and all that does is exasperate that. And then you can't even see your hand in front of your face, you know?
Yep. And that's where I was at. I mean, so if my brother and his wife were listening, it wasn't you. I was already there, you know, like, so I'm glad you said that. But I cried the whole way home and like just hated myself. And I ended up getting home, popped open a bottle of whiskey, started ripping shots, took a couple more Adderall pills. I mean, I probably took, cause I was taking it every day and I probably took at least 80 milligrams of Adderall that day, at least, which is a lot.
Yeah, as I say, I don't know what that means.
That's a lot. Okay. I mean, like if you took 5, if one of us never like I haven't taken it in freaking years and years, took like a 5 or a 10, we'd be like jittery and like you'd look like you're on meth.
Because you would be on meth.
Exactly. Exactly. But I started just ripping shots. I probably drank a full handle of whiskey, like close to. I was at the point then where I would drink 2 handles of Maker's Mark in a weekend and then go out to the bar.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, like it was, I mean, I could do that because Adderall kind of counteracts how drunk you feel.
Oh, I see.
And you feel more energy. You don't feel as drunk, but I mean, you're fucked up. So I was just hating myself. I was pacing around my apartment and I ended up grabbing my gun and sitting on the couch. And I remember just feeling, I hated myself. I was crying. I remember thinking about my family, you know, my mom and my dad. And at the time it's hard to talk about now because I look at how good things are. And I have my fiance here. I have my little nieces. I'm helping so many people, but looking back on that, I thought the world would be a better place without me.
Yeah, bro. And that's not a unique place to arrive at.
Yeah.
That's kind of what gives you the pass to do it. And I remember when I was sitting in my car that day that I decided to do the same thing. I'm going down the list. I'm like, my kids will be better off with me gone because I'm not even earning enough money to pay our bills. They deserve a dad that can fucking afford to pay their bills. Things like that, right? Yep. My wife will be better off because she can find a new guy that's fucking not crazy like I am. Like you go down all these I go down the list of everyone in my life and then I come up with a validation of why they are better off if I'm gone. But you know what one I couldn't was mom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was like, dude, when mom finds out about this tomorrow morning, there's no part of her life that's going to benefit from it. You're going to fucking ruin her is what you're going to do. And was it the same, bro?
So I loaded my gun and I put it to my head. And I can still picture my mom's face.
Fuck, dude.
And I remember just saying, I'm sorry. And I pulled the trigger.
Fuck.
It didn't go off.
How did it, what ended up happening with the gun? Was it a bad round?
It had a dent in it.
It had a dent in the primer?
I can still hear the click. Like it echoed.
Bro, I got fucking chills now.
It's echoing in my head right now. I hear it all the time. I can still hear it. It's to the point where I still don't know if that went off and like this is my second chance or it doesn't make
you're
sense.
In a different universe or something now.
Seriously, like it doesn't make sense. That's why I say I should not be here. The only reason I'm here is because of God. Like that, it does not make sense. I've used those rounds before. I've used that gun before. That's never happened. Like,
well, yeah, and like. If it's the gun that's in your car, that's your carry ammo, which is usually nicer than range ammo.
Yep.
Which doesn't malfunction.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And it was all a point. Like,
fuck, man.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if I ever told that full story, actually.
But dude, the thing is, it's like, in the more I start to like feel like I learn about the universe and like myself and the spiritual side of things, I think that we hold a lot more power as an individual to actually affect everything that's in the physical.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so like there was a big part of you that was ready to go, ready to fucking cash it in and be fucking done with this journey on earth. But I bet there's a part of you that's like, you know what? I'm not allowing it to fucking happen.
Yeah.
And or maybe an entity or an energy or something.
Yeah.
But it's not, yeah, I'm with you, bro. Mm-hmm. It's not just, oh, that primer wasn't seated right at the factory. Because that's a fucking 1 in a million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That shit, there's a force or power that is either internal or external that said, motherfucker, you got more shit to do here.
Yeah. And
now you're doing
that's
it.
what I'm doing. I mean, every day I wake up, that's it. I'm trying to earn that every day. Like, earn it. That was my motto last year's earn it.
But bro, I'll tell you right now, dude, like, and this might sound kind of fucked up, but like, if I'm going to go talk to veterans that are dealing with depression from combat, then I should probably have some combat experience. If I'm going to talk to like police officers that are dealing with depression from patrol, it'd be good if I had some patrol experience. Bro, you walked through the fucking fire and you faced those demons right up until the end. And what that's going to do, good or bad, it's going to build fucking capital for you to help all the people that are currently in that place.
And that's, I mean, when I was talking about my injuries before, all the injuries I've gone through, so I can help people, it's the hardest ones to overcome. You can't see. And that's, I know that's why I went through that.
So,
I know it.
So that was, you said that was 2016, 2017?
I believe, I mean, I was so messed up for 2016 or 17. I can't remember exactly, but
how is it? So it went click. What went through your mind next?
I just started bawling. The rest of I started crying. I set the gun down.
You didn't go and you didn't conduct an immediate action drill?
No, I mean,
you didn't tap and rack?
I started crying.
I'm around,
no. I just remember I was bawling. No, I didn't tap rack pull. But no, I remember I started crying, and I'm pretty sure I cried myself to sleep. I was hammered.
Fuck, dude.
And I didn't tell anyone about that for a long, long time. And my family, I was really good at hiding it.
Yeah, of course. We all were, bro.
I mean,
especially like, you know, if you're a fit, capable guy, if you're a fighter, if you're someone that is like decent with just the ability to carry yourself as a strong man, people see that and then they think like, oh, that would never be him. And so now, because people look at you as a sign of strength, you're actually more reluctant to be open about it because you're like, fuck, people think I'm this strong, capable guy. What if they think I'm weak?
Yep.
And that's another lie we tell ourselves, because true strength is found in vulnerability.
Exactly.
Like that fucking story you just told, tearing up and like, man, you were fucking kind of trembling for a second. Like it doesn't feel good. And it's scary to fucking open up about stuff. But bro, we can all go get on your assault bike and fucking spike our heart rate to 180, right? True strength is fucking is found in vulnerability.
Yep.
And that's, the older we get, the more and more you start to understand that, because like that vulnerability is where you fucking help other people, man.
Exactly.
You know?
Well, and it's like, I know that people, I mean, social media, it always looks like, oh, we post most of the time the best versions of ourselves or us doing cool stuff. And that's why lately I've started to talk more about this, because I know people see me and they think, oh, he's just, badass. He's really strong. He's never gone through stuff. And I've even had people comment, it's easy for you. I'm
bro,
like, dude, you have no clue.
Yeah, bro. I see that. And I get that too sometimes. I had someone tell me the other day, it's like, the reason you can do all this stuff is because you're an elite athlete. Most of us aren't. It's like, elite athlete? Dude, I'm a fucking broken 42-year-old guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm the furthest thing from an elite athlete.
Yep.
But the thing is, people start to say that because when they see you looking strong and finding happiness and being good at something, they can't just say, you know what, that guy did that through grit, will, and determination. Because if they said that, they'd have to look in the mirror and be like, Why aren't I doing it?
They want a built-in excuse.
So them saying things like that to people like us is really just it's a mechanism to build in an excuse in their own brain so they don't have to put the work in.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, dude, like I'm always on an ebb and flow. Like I will get fucking shredded and then I'll fucking be like, you know what, for the next 2 months, like I'm going out to Mexican tonight with my mom. You know what I mean? And I'm not fucking shredded right now. In fact, it's funny because it's like, if we do a cold plunge video, I look like a fat pussy right now. But when I get home, starting Tuesday morning, I'm doing strict carnivore for the next 30 days. And I'm drinking water and I'm eating meat with salt only, not even having coffee, right? Mm-hmm. I put myself through these arduous times because I know on the other side of that are the results that I'm looking for. And I was out to breakfast. Do you know who Emily Hayden is? Do you follow her by chance?
Sounds familiar.
She's like a fitness influencer, first form girl. And I told her, I was like, I just don't feel like I can get ripped anymore like I used to. And she's like, I could see the disgust in her eyes. She's like, are you kidding me? She's like, every single person on planet Earth can. It's simply a formula, you know? And I went home. I was like, fuck, I wish I hadn't said that. And so I was like, I dieted hard as fuck and got shredded. And I was like, all right, I was wrong. Yeah. I can get ripped still. And everybody can.
100%.
But it's hard. Like I imagine your fucking diet is super fucking strict and you're not eating bullshit. And it's like, you have to give up a lot of aspects of life that are fun. Mm-hmm. That's going out to going out to eat and fucking hanging out with friends. Or you go to Christmas and it's like, I'll cut just turkey off. And it's like, you're not going to have any dressing and gravy. It's like, no, motherfucker, I'm not, But that's a built-in mechanism because people don't want to put in the hard work. So if they just say, it's easy for you, you're born like that, it's genetics. Now I can be a fat pussy and feel good about myself.
Exactly.
And
that stems back to one of the greatest gifts anyone ever gave me. He has no idea he did it. I was 21. I was training and it was in the summer training. I was working at my parents' place and everything. And at the end of the day, I had already had 2 workouts in, got done at the office, ended up stopping by this local restaurant and bar. And I sat down at the bar and just had a beer, but like a beer and an appetizer, just decompress before going home, like not drinking or anything like that. It wasn't that time in my life. But this guy who's probably mid-40s, out of shape, like kind of looks me up and down and he says, yeah, I used to look like you. And then, I injured my knee in high school football. And I was like, first of all, no, you didn't. And second of all, like I think about that guy all the time.
Bro, it's like, send him Derek White's profile. Mm-hmm. He got his fucking legs shot off in Afghanistan and he's a savage.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, fuck your excuses, man.
Mm-hmm. And so I've always thought about that guy. And I'm like, from that day on, I'm like, I will not be that guy.
No,
I will never be telling some young, in shape kid, I used to be like you. I'm going to be the guy who that young kid is looking at and is like, I want to be like that when I'm 40. You know?
And bro, like, I feel like our parents' generation, when you're 40 and 50, you just you get a beer belly and you just fucking you become more sedentary and your body gets weaker, right? That was a very natural progression. Even for like my dad, his whole life was a commercial fisherman and a mechanic turning wrenches. He was always strong. He's always tougher than fuck, but he also had a beer belly and was just out of shape. That was that generation.
Yeah.
We're seeing now through the guys like Goggins and Cam Hanes and Joe Rogan, and there's a lot of men that are in their late 50s, even 60s, that are still savages.
Yep.
And it makes you realize the formula's the formula forever. You just have to stay on the path.
Exactly.
But what people do is they get off the path and then they say things like, my metabolism slowed down. And it's like, dude, the science actually doesn't support that theory. Your metabolism never slows down. They did studies. I got my degree in exercise physiology, and I remember this reading. One of these assignments was the study about how they looked into cultures whose lifestyle never changes. Mm-hmm. So a lot of native fishermen cultures where it's from the age of 18 and 80, they get up at sunrise, they take their 1-person canoe out and they fish all day, and then they go in and they sell their fish at the market, and that's their life. And their body composition never changed at all. And it's like, you look at Americans, okay, once you're 40 or, like you're very active through your youth, then you go to college and your activity levels, unless you're an athlete, drop dramatically then. And then you go into the workforce and it drops even more. And then we have a certain percentage of the workforce that is still using their physical body. So then once they retire, now physical movement is basically over at 60 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
Of course you're fucking dying.
Of course.
Well,
and I mean, that goes back to a lot of, third world nations and countries and tribes. They sit on the ground. They sleep on the ground. How many 50-year-olds do you know that could, go on the ground and get up like from the ground?
Bro,
I mean,
it's nuts.
Yeah.
So dude, I read this study that said, I don't remember what the percentages are, but it was something along the lines of, I think it was 60 something percent of Americans above the age of 50 can't get up off the ground.
Yeah.
And so I was with my wife and I said, do you see this? That can't be fucking true. What are they talking about? And so we were driving to her mom's house when we got to my mother-in-law's house. And I was like, can you humor me for a second? And she's like, yeah, what's up? I said, can you just lay down on the ground and then get up? Bro, struggling, had to like grab the corner of a piece of furniture and shit. And I was like, oh, what the fuck, dude? Went to my mom's house. Mom, you get on the ground. What are you talking about? Please, just get on the ground and then stand up. Same thing. Like kind of roll over into like a turtle. And you could see it's like super uncomfortable. And they're just, their bones and everything is like out of alignment and not functioning properly and having to hold on to stuff. And that's when I was like, mobility is going to be a super important part of my routine now. Because that's what longevity is.
100%. I mean, I almost spend more time doing mobility, active recovery, myofascial release, time in the plunge. I mean, sauna. Like, I almost do more of that now.
I like that stuff more, too.
Me too.
You know what I mean? Like, because here's the thing. You can, the gnarly fucking workouts that you're like supersetting thrusters and assault bike, like 10 calorie hits, like, that's so fucking painful. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for it, right? But getting in the sauna is always a good time.
Yep.
100%. Getting on your chirp wheel or your foam roller is always like, when you're done, it's like, oh, fuck yes.
You feel good. I mean, you feel
dude.
better for a long term after it. It's like, and for a long time, it was easy for me to go in there and like crush my soul with a workout.
Yeah.
Like that's simple. And actually one of the things that this Whoop has done is allowed me to pull back and try and stay in the green and make sure I'm recovering enough. I mean, it tracks my recovery, it tracks my sleep, tracks my workouts, all that stuff. But it allows me to pull back with my workouts and not feel like I'm giving into that inner bitch. Like, because a long time, that's how I felt. I'm like,
no, I was there for a long time too. It's like, but here's the deal. There is a balance between listening to your body and not allowing yourself to listen to the inner bitch.
Yep.
And sometimes they kind of manipulate you. I've had times when it's like, okay, it's time to train. It's like, well, dude, you worked hard yesterday and you're kind of sore. And it's like, dude, is my brain trying to find a little loophole to get out of training? Or is it a legitimate loophole like, bro, you do need a little more recovery?
Yeah.
So the Whoop's the answer to that, huh?
Well, I think so, at least for me. But
the thing that I've always wondered about the Whoop is a substantial portion of my training is rolling.
So awesome thing. They actually came out with, they have compression shorts.
Oh, really?
And that's what I use. I can show you it, but all you do is you take this little Whoop guy off here. This is all it is.
Yep.
And then you slide it in, goes in the back of your compression shorts. There's like a little pocket there.
Interesting.
Incredibly accurate. I was skeptical when I first got it, but it tracks my rolling and my jits incredibly accurately. Like it's
I'm
insane,
sold, bro.
Yeah,
I'm gonna invest in one tonight, dude.
they're legit. I'll send you a link because it'll give you a free month and a free one of these 4.0 bands.
Okay,
But
yeah.
they're. I mean, you know me. Like I'll never talk or promote something that I don't believe in, and I truly believe in this. That's why I wear one. I tell my clients to get them. My fiance wears one. I got it for Christmas, and they're legit.
A lot of people have recommended that.
And I like it because there's no BS. There's no. I don't want like a smartwatch or like text message notifications all the time. Like that's why
Bro, we spend enough time staring at our phone.
Exactly.
And I'm as guilty as anyone. And my wife got an Apple Watch and she's even said that. She's like, fuck now. Even in the shower, my text messages are coming through. Or like, you know, like out of the gates when technology blew up, it was cool. Like, dude, I can stay connected to everyone at all times. And it's only been like maybe a decade of this. And now it's kind of like I'm going the other way. It's like, dude, when I get out in the mountains and I have no service for 3 days, I realize it's like, oh, fuck yeah, dude. Yeah.
Well, and you felt like James Bond at first. You're like picking up a phone call with your watch. Like that's how I felt at least. But now, like when it started saying things like, you need to stand up, I'm like,
fuck
dude,
you.
I crushed a 2-hour workout. Shut the fuck up. Like, some nerd in Apple in California is telling me I need to stand up.
It's like, I'll kick that dude's ass.
Yeah, it's like, no, thank you.
Well, fuck, man. There's something that I want. I don't want to just breeze by it. I know, like that's a fun part about podcasts. It's just we go off on tangents and talk about a bunch of different shit. But the story about fucking coming to the conclusion that this is the day that you were going to end your life.
Yep.
I want to know what the next morning looked like. Like, is that where the road to recovery started, or were you still caught in that storm for a long time?
I wasn't in the storm, but I hid the storm for a while. So one of the things that really saved me, and that's why I talk about training and working out, is iron therapy. Next day, I hungover. I went in to train with one of my best friends, Tim. He's been my strength and conditioning coach since I was playing high school hockey. He'll be in my wedding this year. Incredible dude. I have learned so much from him, but I went to work out with him. I don't even think I told him what I had tried to do, but that was my iron therapy. I went in there and I trained, and the first time I told my parents was, I believe, a couple of months ago, and I was at my parents' place and we were watching, it was a Bradley Cooper movie, Born a Star or something. What is it? What? Star Was Born. A Star Was Born.
Never heard of it.
And my parents put it on. And anyways, Bradley Cooper, there's this scene where, you know, he's a star, a singer or something like that. I don't really remember the movie, but I remember the scene where it's leading up to him taking his own life. And I remember the feeling, like Bradley Cooper did an incredible job, like hats off to him. But I remember that scene and that buildup, and I was shaking, like you're sitting there in my parents' place, like nice couch. We're sitting there watching it, but I was shaking. My palms were clammy. I was sweaty. And when I found out, I was like, did he just kill himself? Like I was, and they're like, yeah. And I broke down. And
they're all like, what the fuck's going on?
And so I told them, and they had no clue. And my parents for a long time felt so bad that they didn't know. And I was like, no, I was really good at hiding it. So that happened. And then I ended up moving back down to Arizona. And that's when I started kind of recovering.
You're in the sun again. You're in your place.
Exactly.
Yeah. And bro, there's a lot to be said for that.
I definitely had the seasonal depressional disorder or whatever that was. Like being up there and being in the cold, being where it's always cloudy, and especially like the brown snow, that sludge. I remember I got to a point where I was in there. I hated the sound of my feet on the snow, like that crunching. Like I still remember it.
Yeah.
But ended up moving back down to Arizona, and I ended up buying a place down here. And then I started working, actually doing some, what they called enhanced intelligence gathering. And so I was doing like some contract work, and it was nice because I was getting paid a lot of money, and I got to be home a lot. And so that was cool, but I was bored when I was home. So I was talking to a buddy, and the local gym, Mountainside Fitness, was hiring personal trainers. I'm like, hey, I've been training for a long time. Like I wasn't working as strength and conditioning coach at the time. I had never thought about doing it. I'm like, hey, that can kind of take some time away, and I can do that. So went in there, applied, got the job right away. Did that for, I want to say, 3 months, and couldn't stand it. Just how they had everything situated, how they treated their personal trainers. And, you know, there is a difference in my opinion, between a personal trainer and a strength and conditioning coach. Mm-hmm. I think a personal trainer is someone where, you know, you go to the gym, they run you through a workout, and that's really it. That's the end of that relationship. They probably have the same workout
For all their clients.
All of their clients that day. Maybe change the reps up a little bit, maybe a little bit of differentiation, but that's about it. Strength and conditioning coach to me is someone who you're part of a team. Like I talk to all my clients. I ask them how they're doing. Like I know about their family. I know about their jobs. I know about all that stuff. So anyways, right about this time, I ended up meeting Scott Flansbaum, who's a former Marine, or I guess Marine, because they say once a Marine, always a Marine.
No. You can phrase it as former.
Former.
You just can't say ex.
Ex, okay.
An ex-Marine, their panties get in a bunch.
Yeah. And Scott has an incredible story. So he's on Unbreakable Journey on Instagram. He ended up going to a routine back procedure. He has some messed up vertebrae in his C-spine, and they ended up hitting his spine. And he came out of that procedure paralyzed from the neck down.
Holy fuck, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, his story is incredible.
And it's permanent, huh?
Well, that's what they told him. They told him he'd never walk again. And he has like 4 daughters.
Fuck, man.
And so I ended up finding him from social media. He became friends with Dom Rosso, who's was a SEAL for 12 years. Most of that team was with DevGru, SEAL Team 6. And so I found Scott's story through Dom because I was following Dom. And there was a day where Scott posted on his story, he was in the shower or something like that and just saying how he was really struggling. And at the time, my back had gotten really bad. So I reached out and was just like, hey, man, I'm praying for you. Let me know if there's anything I can do. I'm in Arizona as well. And he responded right away. He's like, dude, we're in Arizona. We found out we live 15 minutes away.
Oh, shit.
And so we ended up, at the time, I was also kind of talking with Dom, and he was about to start this online training program, Armor Up. And so Dom reached out to me to be on like the beta group of this, like the testing group to start with this online training.
You're telling me you only want to be on the alpha group?
Yeah, I should have. He would have loved that. So I get on that, and we're doing that for a while before we launch everything. And I get to know Scott, and we end up going to Lifetime Fitness, and I run him through a workout, and he ends up. So, long story short, he is now walking. He at the time was able to walk assisted with a walker. It was a longer journey for him, but I'll let him tell that on all of his platforms and everything.
Yeah.
Went to Lifetime Fitness. We made a video of him, and he was on the treadmill, kind of jogging unassisted for the first time. And I just ran him through a workout, and we became friends. And I told him there's this brace. It's like a robotic brace that he could get that would allow him to walk unassisted, but it was like over $60,000.
Oh, fuck.
And so after a couple of months of me talking to him and trying to convince him, like, dude, you need to do this, he allowed me to put on a fundraiser. So we ended up raising over $60,000 in 10 days for him to get this robotic brace. And in between the time where, we made that first video and I was getting to know him, Dom and I started talking, and everyone asks, like, how'd you meet Dom? And I'm like, God, first of all, it's God's plan. But the second answer is social media. Mm-hmm. And so I was talking to Dom, and he was putting on this training, and he invited me out to Virginia Beach. And it was actually 1 week after my 14th back procedure. He's like, no worries if you can't make it. I was like, no, I'll be there. I was like, I don't know what I'll be able to do, but I'll be there. And so that was my first time meeting Dom, going out there to Virginia Beach at his training facility in Dynamis HQ. Dom's with Dynamis Alliance. That's his company. And we were doing a combatives course, and there's a couple times because, I was a week out of this procedure. It wasn't like a crazy invasive procedure. It was, I believe that one was the RFA, radio frequency ablation, where they go in there and they burn the nerves. So they burn my facets and all the nerves in my back, so I can't feel the pain. But you're still pretty sore for a while after. And
I imagine whatever's causing the pain, whatever ailment is causing the pain is still there.
Yeah.
They're just masking you from it, huh?
Absolutely. So,
it's fucked up.
Because I've been dealing with my back for over 10 years.
Do you know what was the catalyst that made your back just fucking fall apart?
So I remember I've injured it so many times, like injured and re-injured. I remember there's one time playing hockey, I got checked from behind and went headfirst into the boards. I'm not sure if it was that time. I'm not sure. There was a training accident that happened. There's a car accident that happened.
So yeah, just
I can't remember which one came first.
Combination of everything.
Yeah. And then all of that stuff. And just random traumas, all that sort of stuff, not knowing about my psoas and releasing my psoas and mobility.
Do you have a trick for your psoas?
So I use a Pso-Right.
You use the Pso-Right.
I use the Pso-Right, and I use it every day. I used it for probably 30 minutes today. And I isolate each side. I go into not just my psoas, but I'll go into my iliacus, which is right on the inside of your hip. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go into my hip flexor. I'll go into my glute med. I'll use it my hamstrings.
I have the Pso-Right spine, which I really like that one, but I've never used their actual Pso-Right for the psoas.
You need to. It's a game changer.
That's all I need.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a whole list of things to buy when I leave here today.
Well, and I got a 50% off code, so I'll give you that too.
Fuck yeah. What's your 50% off code?
I can't remember. I'll have to. I have it in my notes.
I was going to try and get you some traction.
Yeah, I know. I have my notes. I usually give the 50% off to like all military, law enforcement, first responders.
Cool.
And, try and help them out because now those have gotten so expensive. When I first bought mine, I think it's doubled in price now.
Yeah.
And, the owner, I've been in talks with the owner, and we're going to go through we're going to get together when he comes out here next and go over like an actual instructional video of how to use it. And there's so many different ways you can use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pso spine, I actually like for using like my traps and my rear delt. So I'll actually not go past my spine, and I'll use that for a lot of different stuff. I'll use that for my glute med.
Dude, I'll take my Pso spine on road trips and just put it in the back seat of my car or against the seat of my car. Mm-hmm. And you can, like, as you're driving, kind of give, because, like long ass road trips, everything starts to fucking bind up.
Yep.
But yeah, dude, patrol officers, I honestly think that's one of the worst things you can do for your body. Mm-hmm. You're wearing, I think when it was all said and done, it's like 37 pounds a kid or something.
Yeah.
It feels like you're a fucking ranger in Afghanistan again. Like body armor and fucking plate carriers, just all this crazy shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I look at this like probability versus possibility, right? There's a possibility of anything happening. Like a fucking tiger could escape from the zoo. So now do we need to have fucking like, I don't know, large muzzles and shit. Like it's just, you can come up with a scenario where every single piece of equipment needs to be on your body, but what's the probability of it?
Yep.
Because I carried shit for years that I never used. And I used to hate it too, because they're like, you need to have 2 less than lethals. I said, you know what my less than lethal is? Jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want tasers and batons and OC and all that shit. And the thing is, like, if you're a baton guy, you better fucking actually know how to use a baton.
Exactly.
Where most people don't. They just put it in their fucking kit and they're ready to go,
Would they let you choose what's on your kit, or did you have to, like, department says you have to carry this no matter what?
So my last department was 2 less than lethals. So that included taser, baton, OC, and I think it was 2 of those 3 you had to have.
Okay.
And then towards the end, it's everybody has to have a taser. But dude, the taser, and I'm probably get a bunch of emails telling me I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but tasers fail.
Yep.
And that's okay, because all equipment fails, right? You have to understanding of that. But I think people rely on it too much. You think this is the end all be all until it hits the belt buckle, and you don't get NMI. You don't get those 2 points of contact that actually causes neuromuscular incapacitation. And now the guy's just looking at you. Well, now what?
Well, and I think that every law enforcement officer should be doing jiu-jitsu. I mean, the amount of videos I see with them trying to make an arrest, and it's like,
not only should they be, it's egregious that they're not.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Like, I say it all the fucking time on the show. If you want to go be a real estate agent or sell insurance, like, cool. You don't need jiu-jitsu. But if your chosen profession is putting human beings in handcuffs, that's grappling.
Yep.
That's, if I'm going to grab your wrist and put you in a position where I can handcuff you, even if people are being compliant, like, I have to understand how to manipulate your body. And now when they're non-compliant, that's a whole other bag of worms. And it's like, how the fuck can you want to do this for a living? Dude, I would have been afraid to be on patrol and know, you know what? I know nothing. I'm just out here on the streets of Seattle and I know fucking nothing.
Well, and it allows you to not have to increase your use of force.
Bro, again, like your presence and your understanding of how to fight people what it does is it's a de-escalation tool.
100%.
And I've even had guys say to me in the back of my car, they're like, "Hey, officer, I was thinking about fighting, but I saw your ears." And I realized today wasn't the day. And I laugh and joke with them. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's cool, man. That's. And one guy told me he was a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He's like, "I saw your ears, man, and I decided probably not the guy to test."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I appreciate it, man, because I don't want to fucking have to beat the shit out of you at the fucking trucking yard."
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
but I've also said to people, because dude, there was one guy it wasn't an arrest. It was a criminal trespass case. So we were only there to say, "Hey, bro, you can't be here. You have to leave." That's a pretty easy conversation to have, right?
Yep.
And my partner that was with him was like, talking to him in a manner that was like almost instigating, you know? And I looked at his ears and he looked at my ears and he started doing like this stuff. And I said, "Bro, what the fuck are you doing?" I said, "I see who you are and you see whom I am. And we can beat the fuck out of each other." I was like, "I like fighting. If you want to beat the fuck out of each other, I'm down. But it's up to you. We can also be cool as fuck to each other too."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Man, no cop's ever talked to me like this before." I started talking to him. Bro, he was a collegiate wrestler that got addicted to methamphetamine. And I told my partners, I was like, "You don't know what it's like having a collegiate wrestler put their fucking hands on you."
No.
You know what I mean?
The amount of hours it takes to get those ears. And
there are people that are super athletes that fall off the path and are now in the fucking throes of drugs and addiction. And those people are out there.
Yep.
So fuck, what are you going to do?
When you have no clue what someone's capabilities are.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they have those cauliflower ears, but how many black belts do you know who don't have cauliflower ears?
Look fucking, yeah, it's like Anderson Silva.
Yep.
One of the toughest men to ever fucking step into the octagon. And he never even had a blemish. after fucking losing fights, he would look like he just woke up and got out of bed.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, no cauliflower, no bruising, no cuts. Like, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Just good genetics, I guess.
Oh, my first jits coach, I mean, he didn't have any cauliflower ears, and he looked like a middle-aged dude. He had a little beer belly, but incredible. I mean, he was so good. And it's like, I even told him after I started training with him, I was like, when I first saw you, I was like, "Oh yeah," I feel like you go in there and like we've already talked about, you have that false sense of security. It's like, I got this guy. It's not even close.
And bro, that's one of the beautiful things about jiu-jitsu is it teaches you, like, bro, you don't know who knows what.
Yep.
You know, I used to have a training partner that he was from Panama, and he fought at 135. And bro, I'm 200 pounds. There's no man that weighs 135 pounds that should be able to give me a problem, right? Wrong. You know?
Yeah.
And like, now I know it's like, dude, Demetrius Johnson will beat the fuck out of every single human being you know.
Yep.
That's the truth.
Yep.
And I don't care if he's 125.
No.
You know?
No.
Like Demetrius Johnson would have won UFC 1.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, and, I tell my team all the time, your physicality is important. Use the body that you have to suit like your game the best. If you're strong, use your strength. If you're fast, use your speed. If you have a good gas tank, then drag people into deep waters. Like, use what the universe gave you, but don't rely on it.
Yes.
Like, train the weak aspects of it too. If you're a slow guy, like, try and develop some games that you're including some speed. If you're a strong guy, try and develop a game where you're using finesse and not strength. Like, It's good to have those tools. But there's a reason why the best guys in the world are also super athletes, you know?
100%.
Do you follow sport jiu-jitsu at all?
Yeah.
Okay, so like, do you know Marcus Bouchecha?
I know who he is.
Dude, he's a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's bizarre how everything fucking happens in the universe. But I was just looking at gyms to train at that were close to my commute when I was working in Los Angeles. And I found a gym in Corona, California, and I looked on their schedule, and it said they run a 7 p.m. class. I was like, cool, that's late. That'll work for me. And I show up, and it's Marcus Bouchecha's gym. And it's 2011. So he hadn't won the world title yet. And bro, that motherfucker treated me like I had never done a minute of jiu-jitsu in my life. And I was a brown belt at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I thought I was really good. And I'm literally a day one white belt with this guy. Nothing works. I never got a sweep on him. I never got a pass. I never got a reversal. I certainly never got anywhere close to a submission.
No.
And those people are out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, it's so humbling.
You know?
Like, especially when you're like, oh, I'm starting to feel good. That next day you go in there, you're going to get humbled pretty quick.
It doesn't make sense that I can put 20 years into a craft and then there's someone that can take that from me. And it's basically like you've put 0 years in.
Well, and it's always evolving. I mean, it's just like tactics. I mean, I laugh at some of these instructors who are like, I've been teaching this course for 25 years. I'm like, you've been teaching the same course for 25 years?
Yeah, shame on you.
Yeah, I mean, you know how much it's changed in the last 3? I mean, it's pretty funny.
Did you watch Gordon Ryan fight Buchecha?
I did.
Bro, when he grabbed the shoulder lock and put a butterfly hook in and just turned him over, I was like... That may not look like something that's earth-shattering, but when you try and move Buchecha's hips, it feels like he's cemented into the ground. Like, you can't manipulate him at all.
No.
And Gordon just effortlessly, shoulder lock, butterfly hook, sweep.
Yeah.
And dude, like, it doesn't even make sense.
I love watching him.
He's
and even on social media.
He's the next level, dude.
Yeah.
I love Gordon Ryan.
Oh, it's so funny.
Gordon
He just
Ryan
plays into it.
Doesn't know it yet, but we're going to be friends one day. Yeah. Because, dude, he's a savage athlete, savage fighter, but he's also grounded in reality. He calls out the bullshit when he sees it. And it's funny, too. Every time he calls out, like, some vaccine bullshit or some fucking big pharma bullshit, there's a bunch of people in the comments like, I follow you for jiu-jitsu, not politics. And it's like, go to your page and write whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
When you're on someone else's page, they'll do the same. Mm-hmm. Shut the fuck up, dude.
Yeah. It's like, this is my page. Like, yeah. And he plays into that negativity and he just like, I love watching him comment back and forth with people.
Bro, I don't know how he does it, to tell you the truth, because I can tell you you've grown a pretty big social media following too. When my social media started blowing up, when people would sling hate at me, it bothered me a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is this motherfucker saying this?
Yep.
And I want to write back and be like, my gym's open 6 days a week, motherfucker. I'm easy to find, right? Like, you want to be confrontational back. Bro, those guys don't want to fight us.
No.
Like, if you wanted to fight me, you could have come to my gym. They literally want any type of response back. So if you respond back, come to my fucking gym, bro. They just won.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I'm the exact same way. And it took me, I mean, because a year ago, I had 4,000 followers.
What was the catalyst for your social media to blow up? Was there like a one-time video that fucking just went nuts?
Well, so it actually started in December of 2021, I believe. I went to Phil DeRue, who's strength and conditioning coach. He is Dustin Poirier's strength and conditioning coach, 5-time strength and conditioning coach, MMA strength and conditioning coach of the year. I went out to his place in Florida, and he was putting on a coaching conference. And I learned some tricks from social media. I learned about the algorithm. I learned about all that stuff. But what I will say is there's been 2 videos that I've had. The first one was a video where I'm like walking, shooting on my treadmill with my AR, and I have a Mantis Blackbeard, like it's an auto resetting trigger. So I think I've
seen that.
Yeah. So
I think I've seen that.
That one, I was doing that. I was doing some blade work. I was doing some combatives like flanking and some kicks and like sledgehammer. And the funny thing about that video,
were you using a sledgehammer that almost knocked me out earlier?
I should have told you there's a little bit of recoil with that.
He says, hey, take the sledgehammer. You can just hit the floor with it. And it bounced back up and almost hit me right in the fucking head.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have been good for the podcast.
Probably should have said, it kind of comes back a little bit.
And bro, I also felt like it rattle my fucking tendons to their core.
Yeah,
dude.
that thing's legit.
I was like, oh fuck, there's something to this.
That's Odin's Hammer. It's Odin's Hammer by Triblod. That thing's legit. It's cool. I mean, I like it because you don't need to have a tire.
Yeah.
But that video, and the funny thing about that video is I recorded that on my birthday. And I was like, I just want to do something fun. I just want to do some fun stuff. And, my now fiance, who was my girlfriend at the time, was there. And I was like, you want to record me doing a couple of things? So I just recorded a couple things, mashed it together. That video has over 1 million views. I have another one that I did more recently where I'm doing assault bike, and then I do like a flank, and then draw from concealment and to the chest, one to the head, and then I'm doing deadlift, and then going from deadlift to doing some blade work. And I was just putting elevating that heart rate, because when you're in a fight for your life, your heart rate's not going to be at a resting heart rate.
Bro, when Glover was out just the other week, we ended the course with just a mini stress shoot where it's 1 minute of burpees before you go into the shooting.
Yep.
Just to show people, it's like, dude, go into a flat range where everything's perfect and your heart rate's at fucking 70 beats a minute. Like, that's not a gunfight.
Yep.
You know, you implement just the tiniest bit of stress, you start to see the wheels fall off.
Exactly. And I saw you guys doing that and I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
dude, it was cool. And so like we put every single student through it. And he goes, all right, last iteration, the instructor iteration. And I was like, well, I got to lead from the front.
Yeah.
So I went and found the biggest mud puddle. I was like, this is right where I'm fucking going in, dude. But bro, what it teaches people too is not just like the value of what a stress shoot is supposed to do, but also like at the end of the day, when people come and invest time, money, and energy, they want to leave feeling like they fucking got something out of it.
Definitely.
And if you're wet and you're cold and you're tired, like, yeah, as it's happening, it might not be the most enjoyable experience. But I told the people, I was like, when you look back on this day, the fact that it was pissing rain and freezing, it was a fucking gift because it made this day harder.
that's what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, that's what you're going to talk about.
And you're going to remember it. And you're going to remember it with a smile on your face.
Exactly, dude.
Like, yeah. I mean, and bonding through that misery. I mean, there's a reason that in military training, you do hard stuff because you bond together when you're doing that.
Adversity, shared adversity is not only like will help you bond in the moment, but what I found is for you to buy off on somebody as a human being, right? If you know they did some arduous task, you don't even have to know them. You already have a little bit of buy-in on who they are.
Yep.
Like, did you watch 14 Peaks?
Yep.
Okay, Nims Purja, never met him. That I would go out of my way to do something fucking special for that guy if he needed it, just because he has fucking put himself on the fucking precipice of being like one of the toughest human beings in the world. You can't be a shitty dude and do that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And it's like, that's why, dude, if you're a black belt or if you're a Cam Hanes, if you're running 100 miles, like, shitty people don't do those kind of things.
No.
Because you learn so much about yourself, you know?
Yeah, they don't have the dedication or discipline to follow through with it.
When I watched 14 Peaks, I was like, this isn't real. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Every 8,000 meter peak is a 3-month expedition, and he's going to knock them all out in 6 months.
That was
Stop
crazy.
it, dude.
That was crazy.
And then he fucking did it.
And then it makes you feel just like a pussy too.
Big time, bro. Big time. Because I'm like, dude, I climb Rainier I've summited Mount Rainier 5 times. And bro, when I'm above 12,000 feet, I feel like I'm in one of those Mount Everest documentaries.
Yeah.
I can take about 2 steps before I have to. And I was like, dude, we're not all equal.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking bitch compared to Nims Purja, dude.
Yeah. Well, and that's why it's always about forging the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what's hard for me? And
Well, and it's true because then one of my buddies was like, well, you beat the shit out of him in a fight. And I was like, huh. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
You know, so we all got our strengths and weaknesses.
We do.
But the level of just raw athleticism to be able to do that kind of thing. Because remember at the beginning of the documentary, he's like, I haven't really worked out leading into this. I have abdomen right now. I'm kind of fat, but it'll go away when we get started.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's like one of the hardest journeys a human being has ever embarked on. And he was getting hungover and shit.
Yeah, I remember
Nuts, dude.
Well, that fat store probably helped him.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I mean, you need that. Like, it's like a lot of people say going into, Ranger school and everything, like, you want to have some fat on you because you're going to lose it. Like, you need that energy.
You come out of Ranger school. I wonder how many years of life Ranger school takes off you.
Gosh,
it's fucking ridiculous.
I feel like I heard from somewhere that they did a study on that and like
I've heard things about that too. I don't know if it's a rumor mill, if it's any legitimate shit.
No.
If anyone knows, fucking send me a link to the fucking podcast email.
Send the data.
I want to know how soon I'm going to die.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, social media is weird, man, because like when I made my police viral video, I went from 1,000 to like 80,000. It was just boom. This is your new life. 80,000 people are following your shit.
Right.
And then I made a sauna video, like, and boom, another 40,000 people started following because it went super viral. It's like, what you said, you looked into the algorithms and understand it a little bit. Like, I don't really understand any of that shit, but every once in a while, something just catches fucking wind.
Yeah. And I mean, that's 100% true when they catch wind, because both my videos have done that. And the latest one actually happened the week before or during Christmas, and I gained, I want to say like 13,000 followers in a week or something like that, which, going from, I think I was at 30 or 20 or something, and it jumped up. So that's a big percentage.
And what's funny is people are like, I don't fucking care how many followers I have. And it's like, well, if your business is health, nutrition, fitness, being better, podcasting, gym owner, like all of these things, you know what? The more eyes that are on you and are following what you're doing and the products you believe in, like it's actually, from an entrepreneur standpoint, it's very beneficial to have more eyes on you. So at the end of the day, you kind of do care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not like the end all be all. Like the end all be all for me is my jiu-jitsu academy. Like I could lose Instagram tomorrow and we're going to be just fine. But I'm finding, I think one of the keys to successful entrepreneurship is having diversity in what you're doing and not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
So like gym ownership, podcasting, partnering with Fieldcraft. We're going to start that jiu-jitsu academy with them, and then also like, our guns and gis and training, like different opportunities to train different people throughout different areas geographically in the United States. You put more stuff out there, you're going to find more success.
Exactly. And you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's what I've had to explain to people, like family members and friends. Like, when you're an entrepreneur, your social media is free marketing.
Yes, exactly.
And like, that's why I don't post like certain family members' birthdays and stuff on there. Like, I'll post it to my close friends or something like that sometimes. But I mean, it's a job. Social media becomes a job a lot of the time. And the more followers you have, especially with me doing online training now, it matters. It turns into revenue. And I'm doing exactly what you're talking about. I'm looking into starting a podcast. We have the Compound Warrior Project where we're going to be bringing people out. We're just starting a YouTube channel. So we actually have a couple of videos already filmed and edited that we're going to start releasing soon. And it's like just trying to generate more and more revenue. But
and generating revenue is cool, regardless of what everything's not about money. Well, I never said it was about money, but the more you can generate, the bigger things you can do and the bigger missions you can embark on, Well,
it's about providing for my family.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And if I want to have a nice boat and a cool house, like there's nothing wrong with that. It's weird how it got demonized, But one thing that once I kind of came to this understanding, because I used to feel bad about like, fuck, I charge my jiu-jitsu students $100 a month. That's nothing, right? And I used to feel bad, especially when guys are like, hey man, I'm kind of going through hard times. Can I skimp on my payment for the next couple months? Yeah, that's cool, man. But where I started finding success in gym ownership is like, it's not that I'm charging you money. It's that there's a value exchange. You are leaving here a better version of yourself on a daily basis because I have a skill set that I can impart on you. And I don't look at it anymore as like, you're paying me for this. I look at it as value exchange. And my value is undeniable now. I have 200 students. I have students that have never put a gi on in their life. And 3 years later, they're fucking monsters.
Yeah.
And that happened under my tutelage. And so that's not like tooting my own horn ego thing. It's like, I now understand that people can show up. They can buy off on my program and my curriculum. And if they stay dedicated and they put in the work, they will gain a tremendous amount of value out of this. And as soon as you look at it as value exchange, bro, that is exactly, it's kind of freeing because there was always a part of me that the money side of things felt kind of weird,
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing for me is time. Like, you will never get time back. So if you're spending time teaching this, like, you can make more money. You're never going to get that time back though.
Yep.
And so your value exchange, exactly like you said, never getting that time back though. So I've felt the same way, and I'm weird a lot of the time with money. Like, it's something that's always been kind of uncomfortable for me to talk about. And I'm not cheap when I charge my clients and everything, but I know I have spent an entire lifetime learning the things I've learned. And the only reason I'm at where I'm at is because I have learned from people a lot smarter than me, and I have adapted their methodologies, their training into what I now have. And so, like, how do you put a dollar amount on learning how to come back from 6 injured vertebrae,
Exactly.
from 2 broken feet, from like all of these different things that I've had to deal with. And so for me, I justify it. It's like, it's time. I have spent so much time doing this and learning this craft, and I can help you. And I want to. I'd love to be able to give it away for free, but good feelings, me feeling good about helping you, is not going to feed my family. It's not going to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Like,
and then the other thing is like, dude, financial independence is necessary if you ever truly want to be free. Because most people, and dude, I was one of these people for 20 years. I literally think 2023 will be the year that I truly achieve financial independence. It's like, as long as some other man has the ability to manipulate your pay or have say in how you progress professionally, as long as that man exists, you're not free, dude.
Yep.
And so the only way to truly stand on your own 2 feet and be able to tell the entire world, fuck you, is you have to figure out how to do it on your own. Yep. And that's it, man. You know?
For sure. When so many people are working jobs where they only stay in it because it's comfortable, they get a paycheck from time to time, and they're really just, they're making someone else's dream come true.
Bro, it's modern day slavery.
Exactly.
And they've replaced the whip with a fucking a paycheck every 2 weeks and benefits.
Yep.
And the reason I say that is because half of the motherfucker, or not half, fucking probably 90% of the motherfuckers that are currently stuck in that hamster wheel, they hate it. So if you hate what you're doing and you're not passionate about waking up and starting your fucking day, bro, you're a slave to the system.
100%.
You know?
And I get it, because I've been there. I get that it's scary to chase your dreams.
I think you have to be there. I've talked about this a lot on the show. I think you have to be there probably through your 20s. And for a lot of people, even their 30s. I think a lot of humans probably find their freedom in their 40s, because you have enough experience, you've had enough time to reflect and kind of set goals and decide like, okay, this is what I'm going to be ambitious about. And if you're one of those people that can follow through on those ideas and those goals, I feel like your 40s are kind of, and it's statistically true too. Like most people become wealthy, independently wealthy in their 40s.
Yep.
You can't start this journey at 20. Just like you said, like, dude, I had to walk this long, arduous path through injuries, recovery, gaining knowledge, seeing what type of training was beneficial, what wasn't. It took you decades to come up with what you are now preaching. You can't do that without walking that path.
Exactly.
You know? And that's why I think like a lot of younger kids that are in their 20s that are like, they see the Instagram rich and they see the guys in their Ferraris and stuff, and like, bro, don't even fucking think about that shit.
Yep.
Because you're just going to set yourself up for failure.
I agree.
Go start sweeping someone's floor and work your way to the top.
Well, a lot of it's finding out what you don't want to do. I mean,
oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many jobs I've worked, like working at Mountainside Fitness. I worked there for 3 months, but you have to be able to pull the chute, and you have to be able to adapt. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. Like, go try things.
Well, I love that you said that, man, because figuring out what you don't like, right? It's like the US Marshals story I told earlier. I figured out I didn't like it, so I moved on. You know, people are so paralyzed by fear that they're not willing to move on. And then you find yourself 30 years in some fucking factory that you're not getting any fulfillment out of. And I'm not fucking shitting on factory workers, because building things with your hands and making products and stuff, for a lot of people, they do get fulfillment out of that.
Yeah, and if that's what you want to do, awesome.
That's cool, right?
Yep.
But if you hate what you're doing, man, you're the only one standing in your way. And it's weird how I get a lot of people reaching out to me, because this topic has come up often, because there's now this movement of people on Instagram, like we talked about earlier, like Evan Hafer, Mike Glover, Andy Stumpf, like these guys that gave their adult lives to government service are now like, well, what's next? And they're finding success with it, right? So there is a path to break the cycle and stand on your own 2 feet. But a lot of people are intimidated to actually embark on that.
Yep.
Well,
and I get it. It is scary. I mean, even from what we're doing with the Compound Warrior Project, it's nerve-wracking. Even coming on the podcast and knowing that I'm going to put myself out there, I get that. I get that feeling. But you can't let fear guide where you're going to go. You can't let fear control you. I mean,
and it's weird how our brains will, for whatever reason, tell you a story to purposefully keep you down.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I know you have the dreams and aspirations to do this or that or this, but staying in this factory is going to be safer. So that's what you should probably do. Well, it's like, why is that in us?
It's a survival technique. I mean, it's our brain always wants to take the path of least resistance. That's why we don't want to go into the cold plunge. No, let's stay in here inside where it's nice and warm. Like, I don't want to get out of bed. It's nice and comfy in bed. I don't want to go work out. That's hard. Like, I
literally feel like a fucking schizophrenic. Like I have two human beings inside of me, because I get in arguments with that motherfucker regularly, dude. And it's like, for whatever reason, that's always going to be part of it. But dude, I mean, I said this on the Glover episode. Entrepreneurship is the unknown time, unknown distance road march of life.
100%. I actually heard that.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that's it, bro. Because where is the destination? Well, we don't really know. Your fucking business or your gym or whatever you're doing, it might blow up inside of a year. It took my gym 8 years. 8 years to become like really viable as a source of income. And so I was doing it the whole time I was a cop. And on one hand, I couldn't put the energy into it that it needed because I was still an active duty patrol officer. No. But on the other hand, I was like, well, I can't walk away from being a cop because the gym doesn't make enough money and I got fucking 3 mouths to feed. So it's like that constant, weighing your options, and it's tough, dude.
Well, and what you said about those two versions of yourself constantly battling, I call that the white and the dark wolf. And I say that they're constantly battling inside of you.
Dude, that's racist.
Let's say the light and the dark, or the good and the bad, whatever you want to say. Yeah, there's enough of that going on, but the good and the bad. So, the good wolf wants to love, it wants to build, it wants to create, it wants to help people. The bad wolf wants to kill, it wants to destroy, it wants to break down. And you talked about social media when you started growing and people were being negative and how it felt. Like I felt like that. It took me a long time to get over that. And for a while, I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to respond. I wanted to be like, oh, screw you. I wanted to just get back at them.
It's getting wrapped up in their low vibrations, bro.
Well, and that's, hate is contagious, but so is love. And so now what I do, like, yes, I want to gain as many followers. I want to help as many people as possible. And in the algorithm, responding to people and more engagement helps build that. But I don't want to spread negativity or hate.
Okay.
So if on my social media, if someone has anything negative, comments negative, one, they're never following me, ever. Like I've always found that.
Yeah.
2, 90% of the time, they have a private account with no profile picture, no followers, never
it's
post.
Just a fucking, it's either a super hateful motherfucker or a bot, right?
Yeah. So what I do, I block that person, I delete. I'm like, I don't need you. There's enough negativity on this planet and on social media. So I want to be a power for, helping people, love, and good knowledge. If you want to spread that crap, if you want to spread that hate, I block and delete immediately. Like, I don't need that. And it took me a long time to get to that point. For a while, I would respond. I'd be like, I want to help this person. They're not looking for help. They're looking for hate.
Yeah. No, if you legitimately wanted to use Instagram or Facebook as a platform to try and learn the other person's perspective, the initial comment wouldn't be what it is.
No, I get a couple that are questions. Like, if someone asks me a question, awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about it.
Or even a difference of opinion, right? But even difference of opinion, it's hard because context is very hard to understand on a fucking screen with fucking letters.
Well, especially with like these 30-second reels that we get.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I get all the time, people are asking or saying certain things about even the videos that have gone viral. And they're like, why'd you do this? It's like context. First of all, you don't know context. You don't know what my mindset was going in. You don't know the situation or scenario I was thinking about. And if you don't know that, how can you really give an opinion?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the world though.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants to just invest 20 seconds into something and then have an idea and a solution, and anybody that has a differing one is all fucked up.
Oh, and you know those dudes who are just spreading that hate are just coming from straight up coming from like their mom's basement. Like I feel bad for those people. I really do, when they're spreading that type of hate. And like a lot of times it's like 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, you're up at 2 a.m. in the morning on a Wednesday and you're just saying negative, like, I feel bad for those people.
Man, I wonder what is the real like foundational issue that makes people want to do that stuff? Because bro, they're everywhere, you know. But also, you know what else is everywhere in our society is people being fat and sick and weak and stupid, and that's just one more little fucking like behavior that we see of people that are choosing to be losers instead of choosing to be winners.
Well, you know that dude's not going to the gym at 5 a.m. He's not going to jujitsu.
He's not banging hot chicks.
No, I mean, he's not doing that. I think that person's so miserable that they want to make someone else feel miserable, or maybe putting someone else down makes them feel better. I don't know, because I've never done that, but it's sad.
Fuck, man. Well, dude, it's about time to wrap this up. So I like to wrap it up with allowing people to see, like, where can they find you? Where, like, your website, your Instagram, anything that you're doing locally, and then let's go get an ice bath in before we head out of here.
Sounds good. Yes. So you can find me on Instagram, Compound Cowboy, and that's also my YouTube channel, which we're going to be coming out with a lot more content very soon. Also, the Compound Warrior Project, that's our nonprofit that we're going to be launching. We have John Devine coming out this week. We're going to be capturing content. Would love as much support as we can get, because, right now it is a nonprofit. We have a couple of partners, a couple of sponsors, but we're looking to build more partnerships. Like we've talked about before, the rising tide lifts all ships. Mm-hmm. And so we would love, it could be a company that wants to donate some product. It could be just actual donations, because the more money that we get, we're going to put that into bringing vets out here, and we're going to do a week in-person training, physical assessment, and then I'm going to give them 6 months of custom programming. I'm going to be with them every step of the way and help them, just continue forging forward. So that's really the biggest ask, is we would love support for our nonprofit so that we can help as many vets as possible.
Cool, man. And as usual, I'll put all your links, text everything to me, and I'll put them in the show notes to make it convenient for listeners to follow. But I think it's good shit, man, because, we touched on the darkness, and we touched on some of the depression and the suicidal ideations and stuff. And I honestly think, like, two of the fucking fastest things you can do to change that trajectory is stop drinking alcohol and start training your physical body. Yep. Like, do those things tomorrow, and you'll be surprised at how fast you can start to change the trajectory of your life. And it's cool that you're using health and fitness and fucking weight training to change that trajectory, because, like, you saw that path firsthand.
Yep. I felt it.
That's fucking cool, man. Well, thank you, bro. I'm excited. Like, just like that, the circle expands. I got another homie, and I'm sure we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, I appreciate it, brother. It was an honor.